I don't know, like, she's out there. You're the Florida version of Sex in the City, JD.
That's when I was smoking my cigar.
Don't be an asshole today. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm okay. Refreshed and recharged.
Yes, there you are with your Cheers shirt. Awesome.
Yes, indeed. It's been a whirlwind since we're back from
Yeah.
the cruise of bad weather and bad hair.
Oh my God. But good food, right? Good food, good drink.
Some good food. Gemma did not have the same experience, but I did. Yeah.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, we've had some time off.
Yes.
And we are ready to hit it with Lauren Hughes.
Yes, we
Is
are.
a female brewmaster.
Before we bring Lauren in, do you see that this is some of the background of the new and improved studio for our podcast? So
Yes.
this is chalkboard paint. So this is a whole wall of chalkboard. And Lauren's name is the first one to go up. So
Hey, all right. Well, let's bring Lauren on.
I'm excited.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
welcome.
How's it going?
It's great. Welcome, Lauren Hughes.
Thank you so much.
Now, did I get this right? Are you a brewmaster yourself?
I am.
That's incredible. It's
It's
such
fun.
a new field, for women to be jumping into. It's great. I'm so happy.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty
yeah.
cool.
Oh,
I
wow.
enjoy it.
Nice. Let's see
Yeah.
the beer. Let's see that.
Oh, I don't have any beer on me. I'm drinking seltzer water.
Ah.
I had a meeting. I actually had a meeting with my boss earlier and we were drinking whiskey. So I was like, all right, for this I'm gonna chill it out a little bit with some seltzer to tame things.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can run downstairs and get beer for sure.
Okay, we won't make you do that. So
But
where are
yeah,
you where are you doing this call from? Where are you at in the
I'm actually at my house right now.
and
This
where
is
is
my
Where is
I
that?
I live in Pittsburgh, so I live in Greenfield,
that?
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge football fan, but yes, go Steelers. I heard
Yeah,
they won this weekend, so that's great.
they did. I actually stayed up and watched. Yeah, that was good.
Nice.
I know. I'm in
Nice.
London, so the games start at 1 a.m.
Holy cow, that's
Yeah.
dedication.
All right. Yeah.
The 8 o'clock games start at 1. It's brutal.
Oh,
It's terrible. But
ooh,
I gotta do it. I gotta do it for my late ex-husband was a huge Pittsburgh fan. So I do it for
Aw.
him. Yeah, I do it for Chucky.
nice.
Do it for Chuck. So
So
Nice.
are
tell
you
us some of your story, Lauren, about the brewery. I heard some of your story, but share with us how this came to be.
Sure. Yeah. So I actually got a text from a friend of mine who's an owner of another brewery in town, and he was like, "Hey, I have this friend. He wants to open a brewery. He needs a head brewer. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah." And I had a call with this guy. His name was Ben. Uh, and we hit it off immediately. He had this concept for this brewery called Necromancer Brewing. Um, and the reason he called it Necromancer is that it would resurrect old beer styles, and kind of bring them back and try and bring them to life. And to me, that was very interesting. I was working a brewery job where I was just kind of brewing the same thing every day. Um, and to kind of have some creativity, it sounded awesome. Um, so yeah, we hit it off and he was like, cool, let's do this. And so little did I know that included like building a whole brewery and getting everything off the ground. So it took about, gosh, it took about almost a year for us to get everything going. Um, and yeah, it worked out really well. We opened in what was it, May of 2020 now, and it's been kind of a run ever since. We've expanded since then. We have a second location in the works. Things have been
Nice.
really well. Ben's a great owner. He's a great boss. One of the things he that attracted me to the job was one, yeah, I get to kind of play around with uh these resurrected beer styles, but also like he was like, I'm tired of going into breweries and just seeing a bunch of white dudes. I want to see more diversity, and I hope that you would help me figure this out. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like that's something I'm totally interested in because, up to that point, there weren't there just wasn't much diversity in the brewing scene, and it's something that I'm super passionate about, and it's something that kind of went from that initial conversation to what we do now, which is kind of like just the company ethos is, it every facet of our everything we do is kind of centered around that, which is awesome. So it was like, yeah, let's make this awesome beer and kind of do this resurrection thing, but also let's be the brewery that, you know, makes it a safe space for everybody, including employees and whoever, and see what we can do with that. And it's it's been a wild ride. I love it. I'm having a great time.
That's
It's a lot
great.
of work, but it's been super awesome, and we've done a lot of cool things. If you would have asked me 3.5 years ago if this would be my life right now, I would have been like, no. uh, and it just worked out, and I'm super thankful, and it's super awesome. We just one of the, I just had a meeting with him. That's what we were doing, hanging out, and just kind of seeing what the future holds and what we can do with the new concept and the new place opening, and what we can do with the current brewery to keep moving. And yeah, it's been awesome. It's been
Tell
great.
us a little bit about this, the resurrection of the older
Yeah.
of beers. Is that like ales or I mean, what?
Everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I say we, it's mostly me, but like I'll look at, kind of what was made and do research of like, all right, what are some historical styles that no one makes anymore because of whatever. A lot of it has to do with prohibition. And then I kind of see, all right, well, what makes this tick and why do people like it? And how can we brew it in a modern way that people will like with current palates and with like modern techniques, obviously, because a lot of stuff they didn't have back then,
right.
as far as like pasteurization and cleaning and just technology, and just make it into something new. And I think, gosh, I've honestly forgotten the number of how many resurrections we've done. We've done 20 something, I know,
Wow.
and with more on the horizon. And it's a super fun thing to do because, you're kind of taking the knowledge, the basic knowledge that as like a brewer, and like, okay, these ingredients work together well. And then you're looking at like what historically folks used, and you're like, okay, how do I recreate this in a way that people will enjoy it, but still get the sense of that, like what it used to be. And
Really
it's kind of
cool.
fun experiment. It's been really fun.
That's
Um,
neat. Yeah. I
yeah.
worked in a pub for a couple of years here, and I was exposed to so much stuff that I never knew. Like I didn't know that you had to pump ales, you
Mhm.
know, like I honestly, I didn't know anything about porters or stouts, like in my mind, the only dark beer was Guinness. You know what I mean? Like it was such a learning experience. It was crazy. And ciders are like here. I'm in London, and
Mhm.
you know, they don't upgrade their pubs. They don't, there's a really fine line to where they stop it at modernization. You know, to be honest, the first time I went to Dublin, we went into a pub thinking it was going to be like an old timey, dark, you
Yeah.
know, Guinness serving,
In a
pub
cottage
with
somewhere.
brass, yeah, dark wood and brass and velvet, and it was one of the more modern pubs. Like you sat at a table and you swiped your credit card down the side of the pump
Oh,
and just poured your own beer. You
What?
wow.
the waitress
That's
would fill the
awesome.
glasses, like it was so weird. And then I come back here and nope, they're like they're all old timey,
You were
pub
the old
sounding.
time dark pub.
Yeah, it was like wow. But yeah, it was really, really a cool experience. Like I now it's like when I when I go into a pub now, I can look and see, what the local, like they're very big on local breweries, like
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their favorites. So we would get like different batches in, and you'd put up those signs and people would be like, oh my God, you got the Tim Taylor brew or whatever it is. And oh, Siren, they'd be like, and it was just like crazy to me that they knew these little local, they were fans of it, but it's also a little bit weird, not weird, but I guess safe, that they put the actual ABV right on the signs. So everybody knows,
Oh, nice.
like if it's 3 to 4, ABV, or maybe creeping up to 5, they can have 3 or 4 and be okay, but the 5 and ups, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna have one, like they're so versed on it. So it was just an incredible experience. Like I never ever walked into a bar and wondered what the ABV was in my drink. You know what I mean? It was just like really, really weird. But yeah, it really gave me a whole new appreciation for brewing, and the way people have they have a favorite, they have a thing, that they like, and you know, they they're down in it, man, when it's one of their
Mhm.
favorite. Do you have a favorite that you've created? Like, when you said like I get tired of walking into breweries and it's full of a bunch of white guys, and like, yeah, they're white guys and they're sitting there drinking blueberry beer, like it's so strange to me. It's so hipster weird, but is there a favorite that you created that people seem to really like?
Yeah, I mean, as far as resurrections go, I would say the favorite among people, there's a couple. There's Farmer's Tan, which is a Schops. It's a dark Schops, so it's a dark wheat beer that's most of the time when you have wheat beers, they're fermented with kind of yeast that produces a lot of esters, like the German wheat beer yeast, and this is fermented with clean yeast. And that one was a hit. And then the most recent one, that was honestly a hit that I didn't know was going to be a hit. I actually made a smaller batch uh, for the beer because I was like, I don't know if people are going to get into this. It's a little bit weird, but people loved it. It was one of our fastest selling beers. It was a Princess beer, which is a Dutch beer that they used to make, and it was kind of the base beer is kind of like a lager, but it's fermented with English yeast, and it has like orange peel and coriander and licorice in it.
Oh,
Um,
Those would be interesting
yeah,
notes.
super
Yeah,
interesting beer, and people loved it. Like it flew off the shelves.
that's
We
crazy.
actually did it for Barrel and Flow, which is a beer fest here. Um, and like people loved it. And I was like, well, lesson learned. I should have made more of it because it was one of our fastest selling beers. I was really proud of it. Like even when I tasted it after I brewed it as it was fermenting, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And you're like, all right, well, maybe that one won't be, because I was too, you just sometimes you just don't know how the stuff is going to turn
Yeah,
out
yeah.
when it's finished, and you just kind of got to trust your gut and go with it. And yeah, it turned out really well. I was really stoked about it, and everybody loved it. So that's one we're going to have to make again for sure.
Did you do a lot of experimenting before you got the job, before you actually got a job being a brewer? Like, did you do it in your home
I
and
was just
Yep.
asking that. Is
yeah.
that something you did before your friend invited you to do this?
Yeah, yeah. So I was brewing at another brewery when I met Ben before Necromancer, and I brewed at another brewery before that, but before that, and honestly, while I was brewing at those breweries, I was home brewing a lot. I home brewed for about like 15 years,
Oh,
um,
Oh, wow.
doing stuff. Yeah, I got bit by the bug pretty early. I was in college and I was finishing my coursework, and I was like, yeah, I like beer. And my best friend at the time, he was like, we would drink beers and talk about them. He's the one that got me into craft beer. He's like, you can make this. And I was like, how do you make beer? Like, how is that? I don't even know. Like, don't they inject it with alcohol or something? I had no idea how beer was made. And he was like, no, man, you just like make sugar water and put yeast in it. You can buy a little kit for like $100. So immediately we went and bought this kit, and I started home brewing, and I couldn't get enough of it. I just kept doing it.
it is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like you're just like, wait, what? And then also the cost to homebrew versus like buying craft beer
Yeah.
to make a batch
Yeah.
homebrew. You're like, wait, I
Big
get
time.
40 beers for this much money? Yeah. Um,
Yeah. It's very cost
um,
effective. Very cost effective.
yeah. And then I had another roommate who he became my best friend. He was a brewing at a place called Bell's out of Michigan. They're a pretty big brewery, and he was a super big home brewer, and he was super influential on my home brewing at the time and like getting even more into it. And then I moved to Indianapolis to just because I was done with my coursework, and I actually got a job at Sun King Brewery in Indianapolis and did some work for them for a couple of years. And I honestly I didn't want to leave that job. The only reason I left that job is because I got a job in the field that I went to school which was music. I was super bummed out to quit that job, and then eventually went back to brewing after so many years. Yeah, long story short, it's totally cool because I actually am going to do a collab with Sun King, which was the first brewery I worked at in a couple weeks. I'm super stoked. I'm going to travel to Indy and I'm going to get to see all the old people I used to work with, and we're going to brew a beer together, and it's going to be super fun. So I'm stoked.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Are you a musician, Lauren? That you said you studied music? Is that
Yeah, I was. Well, I play in a band. I play bass in a band. I didn't learn bass. I was a French horn player for a long, long time.
Oh, wow.
And
Lucky
I have
band.
I have essentially 3 degrees in music. So I have a doctorate that's all but dissertation. I figured finished everything but the dissertation before I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm tired. Um, and I taught college for a little bit, and I played gigs or here and there, and I did orchestra management. That's actually what moved me from Indianapolis to Pittsburgh. Was I got a job at the Pittsburgh Symphony to manage their pops and classical programs, um, which I did that for about 3 years, and then I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to make beer. It was actually my wife that was like, you're unhappy. You were so happy when you worked at Sun King. Why don't you try and do beer for a living again? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna quit my job now. It was a very tough
love
decision. This is
that?
like
Oh, but yeah,
this is
let's
a
support.
it,
Yeah,
it was a
come on.
it was a very tough decision. I make it seem like it was like, okay, I'm just gonna quit my job and like but it was a tough decision. I was really thankful for my wife that she was like, yeah, quit your job. We can make it work. Go try and do this thing that you really love. And then it turned out that I'm doing this thing, and we have Necromancer now, and it's totally awesome. So it worked out. But yes, again, I'm really good at just talking. I homebrewed for a long time.
That's
It's
pretty
a
cool,
scary
though.
thing to make that decision, right? To
The
follow
leap.
your
Yeah,
dream
It was
totally
it was it was very hard. Yes.
yeah,
away from what you set your life up to do. But what a reward, because to work doing your passion is not really working. Like that's
Yeah.
just totally the way to go.
yeah,
That's
Yeah, I have
awesome.
no regrets.
yeah.
I wouldn't change anything
Uh,
about it. I have absolutely no regrets. There's a lot of people that I used to work, and they're like, you don't miss it at all, and I'm like, mm-mm. No, I wouldn't want to do anything else. Um,
oh,
Even on the days that I'm like, oh my God, and everything's breaking, and you're like, oh, even
Yeah.
those days, I'm like, no, we'll keep doing
I
this for a
really,
while.
I am always, so inspired. Like it's fascinating to me. Like when I had uh Kathy on from Brighton Gin, another one experimented in the kitchen making gin, and now owns a full-blown gin distillery down in Brighton. And it's just like you can see her on her, like I knew her when she was like a radio broadcaster. Like I went in and did an interview with her, and met her on that front. And then like 11 years later, here she is with this fantastic distillery, and she just said the same exact thing. Like I just decided to make the leap and give it a shot.
Yeah.
And you can just see the difference,
Mhm.
I
on her
bet.
face, like how happy she is to be doing what she loves. And it's small, and her mom's involved. She does the dipping and the wax and the seal and all
Oh,
that.
that's cool.
It's like it's adorable. And we went to gin school there and learned like all about it. And it is really, I've been to so many distilleries now. The Guinness one, the Jameson one, Brighton Gin, been to a bunch of them and still cannot tell you anything about the science behind any kind of, it's like you're so into it and you're watching and it's making sense as it's happening. And then if you try and explain it to somebody, blank. I just blank. I can't tell you anything. It's crazy. And my wife was like really into it. Like they let you at the gin school, they let you, pick your notes. So you had a big table and it had juniper berries and lavender and all kinds of things. And my wife just put together and you make your own brew. And then you,
Oh, that's cool.
write your ingredients down. And then if you want it, they'll bottle you another one and send it to you. Like
Oh,
your
that's sick.
recipe was on file there. It's like, what? So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's such an interesting process. And for you to be allowed to be creative, and kind of just have at it, it's just like what more could you ask for? You know what I mean? Like that's amazing. Do you have a favorite of your own, like that you lean towards, like certain things that you like to put in that give you like a signature kind of?
For some reason or not, I guess we are really good at. I'm really good at making British beers. Which, if you would have, I'd like,
Ooh.
it's crazy. We won a bunch of awards for British beers, and like
Really?
British beers are not something that I was like super passionate about. It just so happens that I was like, yeah, let's make these British beers. Like our most awarded beer, I think, at this point is Tall, Dark, and Mild. It's a dark mild. And literally we had made a dark mild a couple times, but in more of a resurrection form because that seems to be kind of the base that a lot of these resurrections would do. And I was like, well, let's just make a dark mild. Fine. And I kind of just was like, yeah, I'll make a dark mild, okay. And I remember trying it and being like, oh, this is pretty good. And it just so happened that I had a friend who's a very established beer judge in town for the American Homebrewers Conference was in Pittsburgh, and she came by because I knew her from when I lived in Indy, and she came by and she was like, "Oh my God, this is like really good. You need to enter this in competition." And I was like, "Oh,
Oh.
okay." I was like, "Whatever." And that thing, it's that won a silver and a gold at the Indiana Brewers Cup, and it's done
Wow.
really well. And we had an ESB that won a World Beer Cup last year or this year, I guess. Um, and yeah, for some reason we're knocking the British ales out of the park. I have grown to love them from brewing them and drinking them. For me, it was a little bit of a challenge because I hadn't done a lot of British beer. Like I've done some porters and some brown ales and stuff like that, but not a ton of British beers. But I think a lot of it has to do with like our water chemistry. Our water chemistry is super hard, and it gives, I think, the British ales a little bit extra oomph because it makes them
Oh,
more like it is out in Britain, and which I'm not mad about it. I mean, it's we've done so well with the British beers that the second location is a British pub that we're going to open.
oh,
So
cool.
yeah, it's going to be super cool, and I'm excited about it because we now that we have kind of leaned into that British brewing, um, and we know we can make really great British styles. We've kind of leaned into it, and it's nice to have another outlet to have those and do
Yeah.
all the fun stuff that we can do with the beer engines and stuff. So the British ales are something that we do really well, and I've started to really just enjoy drinking them. Like I will drink our ESB all day long, every day. I love ESB. I do. It has everything you want in a beer. It's not gonna like throw you over the edge. It has just enough alcohol that you're like, all right, this is solid. Just enough malt and caramel backbone, but with enough hoppiness that you're not feeling like you're just drinking dessert all day long.
Right,
Like
right. Yeah.
I lean more towards the drier beers. I'm more of a lager person. Um, and like the ESB it just nails it. It has that like kind of an IPA, kind of not an IPA, but malty. Um, yeah, and then I worked at a lager brewery for almost 2 years, so like I
You
am
got
all
that
about
down.
lagers.
You got the
I
log.
love lagers. I
Yeah.
can't. I do. I love lagers. We made a Keller beer that we released, I think, 2 weeks ago, and I can't get enough of it. I'm
That's
an old school beer drinker. I'm not like your. I like the hazies. I won't lie. Like I like hazies. The hazy
oh
IPAs
yeah.
are great.
Yeah.
But if you give me something that's like crushable and clean, I will drink it all day long. I love them. I love the West Coast IPAs. I love British beers. I love lagers. And that's kind of most of what we do. We always have a hazy or two on tap just because one, we're pretty good at making those. We figured them out. And two, it's what the customers here really want. And then the rest of it's lagers and British beers because I enjoy making them and drinking them, and I think most of our customers do. So
That's great. I have
Now,
two like I want to say local, but not really. One craft brewery is up in Scotland. It's called Williams Brothers. And every year around this time when it starts getting colder and we're moving into winter, they come out with this one that has this like Scotch pine in it.
oh
And
wow.
it's you know, like when I first kind of read the description, I'm like, oh, that's gonna taste like a car air freshener, you know, like that's gonna be bad, but it's not. It's really, really good. And then they make another one with Scottish sea kelp, which
Huh.
is kind of like a seaweed, and it's called kelpie. And hands down, I'm not a huge fan of like a bitter beer, so I always steer clear like of anything that I think is going to be bitter. But Williams brother makes this kelpie beer, and it was a customer that actually came into the pub and asked if we ever carried it, and I was like, no, I mean, I'm really not familiar with it. She said, I'm just going to run home and get you a bottle, and I'm like, okay. And she went around the corner to where she lived, came back, brought me a bottle. After shift, me and my coworker split it, and we were both like so amazed at how clean and crisp this beer was. It was so smooth that now every year I get the Scotch, like 3 Scotch pines and 3 kelpies, and they delivered right to my house. Like they ship
Nice.
it right to you. And so they're one of my favorites. And the other one is Vocation Brewery, which is really big here. And I like them, but they're kind of hit or miss because they do make those ones that are sickening sweet. Like they'll make one
Mhm.
that's supposed to taste like a sticky toffee pudding. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, you know, like wolf. But then they make like one that it's like a s'mores, and it's really good, you know, like little marshmallow background to it, you know. And it's not sickening sweet. So that's a little hit or miss. And they always come out with like some outrageous ones around the holidays. So yeah, those are the only two that I've ever like joined the mailing list and get the newsletter and actually read it. But yeah,
Nice.
and the thing I love about here is that you know, they just right to your doorstep, you know, like bing, 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 Apple Pay, boom, on your doorstep in 4 days. It's like, come on, what's
That's
better?
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I have to say, like, that's, you know, one of the things I don't know, when I lived in Florida, Jay, like, I don't know about you, but like, I was just never a beer drinker when I was in Florida. I would, you know, cocktails and, you
yeah. I mean,
you know,
I would drink beer when I was playing in the bars. I'm a musician, and I played in some seedy bars in the beginning of my career.
I saw you in some CD bars.
I've upped the game since then, but in the beginning, like you play anywhere, right? And I played in some places where I did not want to drink out of the glasses, and that's what got me drinking.
That is
I was
so you. That's
We've
so
all
on
been there.
brand. So on
yeah,
brand for you. Yeah.
so I was never a beer drinker, right? I was more of a Jack Daniels or whatever, so whiskey on the rocks or whatever. But I didn't like that 3 dunk method of the way they would clean the glasses, you know, with the switch thing, and then the last one that's supposed to have the disinfectant in it. So I would drink beer, and that's what started me drinking beer. But now, because I was used to drinking whiskeys, I wanted the beers with the higher alcohol content. So for me, that was my criteria in beer drinking. And that was, of course, before the crafty beers were a thing. Like that was
Yeah.
before all the new stuff came out. So the IPAs and stuff. So I just would get like, what's the highest alcohol content?
What Canadian beer do you have?
Pick a bottle, right? Because they'd ruin the whole thing if they pour it in a glass. That would
Yeah.
totally ruin my reason for having the beer. But it was never anything on tap. But I was going to ask you, like, when you set out to make a beer, do you think about well, obviously you probably do, right? Like this is going to be a higher alcohol content. Do people want that? Is that a thing that's more desirable for certain people? And when you do that, are you trying to, um, like when you said that you try to bring back the older retro style beers, like do you target some of those? Like the one I remember was, I think Budweiser had one. I don't remember the name of it, but it was Bud Dark or something that was a higher alcohol content.
We definitely have customers that want those high octane beers for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if you look at Untapped, which is like a beer phone app, it's like you can rate beers. Like all of our highest rated are, it's like how high is the alcohol?
Really, it
So
is.
it's always the double IPAs or the imperial stouts. Um, and I mean, we target those folks sometimes. I don't know that it's necessarily that we're like, all right, people are going to want something that's higher octane. We need to make a high gravity beer. A
Mhm.
lot of times it's like seasonal, I think. So like in the wintertime, definitely we're going to bring out some more boozy, some darker
Yeah.
beers that are going to have a little
Porters
bit
and
more,
stouts. Yeah.
yeah, a
Yeah.
little
I used
more
to do
juice to
that too.
them.
Noticed that a lot, like around the holidays and,
Hmm.
people being off work and a couple of half days and you know what I mean? Like they're looking to get tanked with their buddies,
Yeah. And it's
you
hard
know,
to do that on beer sometimes if you
not
know,
not some of the higher ABVs.
with the higher ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've had some that have been 10% that'll, couple of them will knock you down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a couple in
Yeah,
my
but it's
fridge
never
right
the
now.
intention to be like, well, we're just going to make, so we have like we're going to release an old ale next week, and that's going to be like 8%. Um,
Those are
but the
yeah.
intention was more like, for me, was more, it's getting to be fall, things are getting colder. People, at least myself, for me, it's the time to enjoy a beer like that because I'm not going
Yeah.
to just gun it and be like, all right, my way. It's like I want to sit with friends or sit by a fire and sip
Yeah.
on something
Yeah.
kind of beer. Not to say that we don't make high gravity beers in the summer. We have. Those are
Yeah.
usually not the darker beers, but I think for us it's mostly a seasonal decision and the holidays. I mean, the time to be drinking the boozy booze is
Yeah.
usually the holidays when you can get
Yeah.
with friends and you actually have time off
Right.
to
Right,
enjoy
right.
those beers.
You lean towards like the holiday spices in like those
Yep.
darker beers and then
Sometimes, yep,
in the summer more citrusy, refreshing.
yep,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Because like
It's very seasonal. Yeah.
yeah, an all ale in the summer, I'm like, oh,
Oh, I know.
and I think that's with most people's palates, they're gonna want to have something a little lighter in the summer because it's gonna be hot.
Yeah.
There's something about drinking something heavy,
Brutal.
and unless it's whiskey,
Right.
in the summertime.
Right. Yeah.
A whiskey,
So
summer
true.
whiskey.
Whiskey is a year-round drink.
It really
Um,
is. It really is.
There a meter or something like when you're making a beer, like like is there a certain level where you know, okay, it's at this content of alcohol? Like I guess that's part of the process. So do you make
yeah,
like the same flavor? I don't know if you use that word, but like the same flavor, like is always going to be that content of alcohol. Of
um, yeah, kind of. So it depends. So a lot of times it depends on how much grain you're using in the mash, and then how your yeast does, honestly. And we like for me when I design recipes, it's mostly based upon like what's kind of the standard for the style. I know there's a lot of brewers that don't follow the style guidelines at all. I like the style guidelines. Now, if I go out of them, that's fine, but just to give me kind of like all right, this is what
Like a baseline.
people expect
Yeah.
yeah,
for this style. And then we use calculations based on like our yeast and how much sugar we're able to get out of the grain to determine ABV. So it's pretty much usually give or take a little bit. When I write a recipe, I know exactly how much alcohol will be in there. Um,
very
so yeah, we have a
interesting.
bunch of yeah. It's kind of an easy calculation. You're just taking what how much sugar is in the liquid when you've first have it, like when you're done brewing. And then after the yeast is eaten, you take what it is eaten, and then what's left is it gives you the alcohol content. That's like you can get it tested to make sure that your calculation is right, but most brewers who don't have all that technology, that's kind of how they do it.
It's
And
Science.
different yeasts will do
science and the
different.
math.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all math.
Yeah.
For someone that hated math, I do so much math right now.
Isn't it crazy?
It is. I was like, I was a musician. I was like, I just need to count to 12. I'll be fine. And now I'm like having to do algebra. And I'm like, I remember I was doing one of my brewing certifications, and I was in this classroom with like 90 other brewers, and they were going over these calculations. And I was like looking at the thing, and I was like, how in the hell did they get that number? And I'm looking at an algebraic equation, and I actually had to test my wife and be like, how do they get this number? And so she texted me back and like did like a little flow chart of like how to figure this thing out. And the guy next to me, who was also Brady, looked at me and he goes, do you know how to do this? Like, can you tell me what they're doing? How they get this number? And I was like, thank God I'm not the only one. I was like, I don't know where they got that number.
Right.
Um,
It reminds me of like parents now trying to teach their kids like core math, after we learned
Yeah.
it like old school, and now they have to like they can't contribute anything to homework now, it's like you're
Oh,
on your own, kid, and I
there's
don't
no
know core
way.
math. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
brutal. Wow.
it's
But just
brutal.
like
But yeah, now I do
anything, you have
math
to
every day,
learn
and
it.
I'm like, I think it's right. So
It
far,
was
so good.
it's so funny. Like again, it's like that pivot and adjust because everything is constantly changing all the time, whether it's modernization or bringing back, old school. There's this,
right.
this constant learning curve that you have to allow yourself for everything. So,
Mhm.
like I think it's great that you're bringing back the old ones, like with nice little resurgence there and putting a little twist on it. It's fantastic. And the fact that they're British, yay. Well done. Well done.
I love British
Uh,
beers.
yeah,
Are you
that's great.
are you an all queer owned brewery, or I don't know if I read that
Not
about you.
yet. Not yet. So
Not
I don't
yet. I'm
own the
trying to get
brewery.
rid of Ben.
I don't know if we'll ever get rid of Ben, but I'm trying to get Ben to let me have a part of the company.
Yeah, that'd
So
be
we're not
great.
queer owned, we're just queer run. So for all intents and purposes, I pretty much run everything. And if you talk to Ben, Ben will be like, I mean, that's kind of mostly accurate. um, but it's not to say that that won't change. There are talks being had of some stuff.
Great. I mean,
And
it's
I would
important.
love to have it be queer owned because there's not enough queer owned breweries. There's just not enough. But we are very much queer led. So, I'm
Great. Did you
queer.
have events or anything, or like?
Oh yeah, we have
Yeah.
lots of events. Me and my lead brewer Nina, we're both identify as queer. We have a ton of events. So we have queer beer club every month. So that was a thing that I wanted to have happen. So we had thrown the first big thing we did was the first year we were open. We had a big Pride Fest. Um, because I wanted to have a Pride Fest at a brewery. There was never a Pride Fest at a brewery, and I was like, this is
Great.
something that I want to do. And Nina and I kind of planned it, and it was a hit. It went really well. It was a 3-day festival, and we had the one this past year, which was a 4-day festival, and it's been very successful. And on the success of that, we've had some drag shows and a couple other things. And I went to Ben one day, and I was like, when I was young, I didn't have anywhere to go as far as a brewery to like feel like myself or not like worry, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm getting super judged right now.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
just to like feel comfortable ordering a beer that you're not going to get like, there's been plenty of places that I walk into and it's like the record scratches and everybody's like, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's up? I just want to have a beer.
Yeah.
Um, but like going into a place and seeing people like you and just feeling that sense of, for lack of a better term, just being like relaxed. You're like, okay, sweet. I can just come in here and like have a beer and chill and be around people like me and maybe even people not like me, but I'm not going to feel weird about it. Like it's just going to be
I'll
not going to be
agree.
judged and then it's just going to be chill and maybe meet new people. And I told Ben, I was like, it would be really cool if we could have this thing called a queer beer club where like
Mm,
once a month we have this club, everybody gets to come hang out. We can have events, we can not have events. It could be like a social day, whatever, but it gives folks a chance to come and hang out and be themselves and have a beer in a place that is welcoming and safe and not like every other brewery you go to where you're like, I can't go to a brewery. Like that's just weird. I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So we did it and it's been a hit. It's been a great hit. We did the whole thing. I told Ben because I'm a little bit older. I told Ben, when I used to go to gay clubs, you had to have a membership card and it was super, you felt like you were like, I'm a member. So I
Yeah.
was like, we need to have membership cards, Ben, and so you get a membership card, and then every time you come for Queer Beer Club, you show your membership card, you get like a percentage off your
Oh, wow.
tab, and
Nice.
and we have, Queer Beer Club merch that's geared to Queer Beer Club. We did a collab beer with members of the club to do a beer called Unicorps. It was a pale ale, which we did a hop selection, Nina and I led, and they all got to pick the hops that we used for the beer, and it turned out great. And now we have that one, and we have Tuska the Narwhal, which is like the IPA version. We bumped it up a little bit. And then we do monthly drag brunches, and we try to partner with organizations. We're gearing up because October is LGBTQ plus History Month.
Yep.
So, and it's coming out day. So we're going to do a collab with a couple organizations in town and donate back to them and highlight all of our staff that's queer identifying as part of that. So like every week we'll pick 2 members of our staff and kind of tell their story and kind of just highlight the people that make Necromancer, because it's not just it's kind of a team thing, and we have a great team, and
Mhm.
we do have a lot of queer identifying folks on our team, and I'm super proud of that. It's not something it's something we aim to do and something we don't aim to do. It's not like you're like, I'm singling out queer people because I want you to work for me, but we want to create this place that they feel comfortable working in
Yeah,
and
definitely.
can
That's
have a sense of community at work. So we do a lot of stuff with the queer community, and we're always trying to think of new things to do, and that is something that is super near and dear to me because, as a woman in brewing, you get discriminated against. Everyone talks about it. As a queer
yeah,
woman in brewing, it's been even harder.
worse. Yeah.
And yeah, it was worse. And I don't like talking about that too much because I don't want people to be, I don't want to like make it seem bad or anything, but also I want to create a space that people like me can come and enjoy beer and feel comfortable and have a good time because that's all the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
kind of a selfish thing, but the thing that my biggest goal with Necromancer is one, to make really great beer. Like I'm a brewer, that is my number one priority. It will always be, but really, really close to that is creating a space that's just open to everyone unless you're a jerk.
Right.
You know what I
No
mean?
jerks
Like
allowed.
that
Right.
we
Yeah.
just had a diversity training. I don't know if you know them. They're called their name's Ren Navarro, and they run Beer Diversity. They're out of Canada, and we had them out to do a beer diversity training because we raised a bunch of money to kind of do some trainings with the staff and get everybody on board and just to educate and see how we can be better as an organization. And one of the things that they said is, I'm so tired of seeing all these "we welcome everybody" stickers
Yeah.
because we don't. Like,
Right.
because we don't. Like, we
Right.
welcome the people that aren't jerks. Like, if you're going
They're
to come in here and
like-minded.
discriminate, we don't
Yeah.
welcome
Like,
you. Like, get out. If
right.
this is not for you, if you're not cool with seeing people that are different than you, then that's not for
Yeah.
you. But the thing that we want to be is a place for everyone, whether that's queer folks, whether that's, straight white guys. I don't care whether it's people of color. I want everybody to come and have a good time and have that feeling of just being relaxed and in your own skin and enjoying yourself and not having to worry.
And having a
Because it's
beer.
just,
And having a great
and
beer.
just have a beer and enjoy your beer and enjoy what everybody else gets to enjoy without feeling weird or uncomfortable or scared, or like you don't fit in, because no one wants to have that.
Yeah.
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 It
Yeah.
must be a
Yeah.
great feeling though, like because like you said, when we were younger, there weren't many places where you could do that, let alone where
Mhm.
you could, brew your own beer, So it's like
Yeah.
it's tenfold, it's like everything you could have wished for, in
Yeah.
Yeah.
youth, and it's fantastic that you're doing that, and it's so inclusive, and that and obviously that the owner is as like-minded as you are, like that's so rare in this business. Like, you know, people are always knocking heads, and
Mhm.
you know, the fact that he kind of you know, lets you fly your
Oh
freedom,
yeah,
you know.
he lets us, and he's a straight white guy, and he has been the biggest supporter
Yeah,
we've
that's
had. And
we
it's
need.
not for him, it's not about, yeah, it's not a money making thing. Like, to be honest, we don't make a lot of money off of any of our career initiatives. It's mostly just to build that sense of community. And it's been very eye opening for him, I think, because he's seen, we came out with a beer called Even Gayer because of the whole Bud Light thing.
Yeah.
We made a light lager that said
Yeah.
Even Gayer, and the backlash from that, I remember him going to me and he looked at me and he was like, I'm so sorry. He was like, I have never, I didn't know it was this bad, because he was the one fielding all the comments and everything off the social. And he just looked at, he was like, I had no idea. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And he's like, no, it's not whatever. And I was like, well, we kind of have to tell ourselves, yeah, that's just the way it
Right.
is, to kind of keep moving. I can't really dwell on it. And he was like, I can't believe it's this bad. Um,
It's
and
gotta be.
he has been the biggest proponent for it, and is, he doesn't always get it right, but he is humble enough to know that, he might not just have the knowledge, and he wasn't raised, in these communities, but he is trying so hard, and I have to give it to him. Like, he is working his ass off as much as we are to get it going and to make it the right place. And it's refreshing to see that there are people like that who aren't even part of the community, that are just like, no, we need to do this, we need to change, like, let's do this.
Yeah,
And he has been 100% behind everything, so it's been great.
fantastic. Like,
Awesome.
more people will change their way of thinking, you know, when they see that, oh, you know, they're still here, nothing bad's happened, you know. It's
Yeah.
one of those things. So tell
Yeah,
we'll wrap up here, but tell everybody like where you're located, where they can find you, anything about a
sure.
website they can check out.
Yeah, where can
Yeah,
they?
so if the brewery itself, the main brewery, is on, it's 2257 Babcock Boulevard in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's part of the North Hills
Mhm.
borough. And that's where the main location is. The second location, that's hopefully opening mid-October, is in Greenfield, which is east of that, about 15 minutes east. It's 563 Greenfield Avenue, I think, is the address. I'm really bad with addresses. You can find us online at necromancer.beer. And then the Instagram's Necromancer, I think, at Necromancer Brewing. Um, and we have a online store where people can buy most of the merch, because our merch, the Even Gayer merch and the Bone You Want a Bone merch, has been very popular. So we have an online store set up because it was so popular that we were like, we just have to start fulfilling these at the producer because it was so um popular.
That's
And
great.
yeah, come hang out. Like, we have tons of events. The Queer Beer Club's every third Tuesday of the month. The drag brunch is every last Saturday of the month. We have skate night, that's every second Saturday of the month. Um, yeah, we turn the whole warehouse. We have a big warehouse in the back that we just turn into a skating rink. It's super fun. I put on skates for the first time in like 10 years. I fell twice, but as a man, I managed to keep it up. And I was like, I have not used these muscles in a very long time. It was super fun, though. It was super fun.
I gotta say, I love how you took your passion and you are just enjoying life. I don't want to say working at it because it's working, you're working hard, obviously, but just enjoying it with all of these other things that you're bringing into it. You know, the events for the Pride events and the skate night, and that's really great. I really think that's
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
love
it's
what you're doing. I mean, I'm so thrilled when we get guests like this because, Jay, don't we
So
talk about it all
inspired.
the time? Like, it's like, I know that like we do news and headlines and stuff like that, and most of it's always shitty, you know, with the current temperature over there in your country. But we really do try and spotlight like some the positivity within the community. And this is a prime example of what we love to hear and share
Absolutely.
and get the word out, because it's just, I think we just need more of it. We need to focus more on the positives and the people that are doing good things, as opposed to all the bad. Like, I really feel like there's a shift coming, and hopefully, we all can feel it, and it's directly related to people like you and what you're doing. So
Well,
we
thank you so much.
thank you so much for sharing part of your evening with us. It's
Of
fantastic.
course. No,
Great.
thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for the kind words. It means a lot. It's great to hear, and it gives me more motivation.
Good.
And
Good.
it just reassurance that like, all right, we're doing it. All right, let's do it. And yeah, it has been the ride of my life. Like, seriously, I would not want to do anything else, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to, like, one, to brew beer and do all the stuff that we're doing on that side, and also have a place that, like, I have never felt so comfortable at a job before, and just been able to be myself and not have to worry about it, and to be able to employ people and host people in the same aspect that, normally. And I mean, that's what makes it great. Like, the thing about it is, like, people can tell me, wow, your beer is really great, and I'll be like, oh, thanks so much, and that means so much to me. It means so much. But the people that we've had come up to me in the tap room that are like, thank you so much for creating this space, and we don't ever feel comfortable going anywhere, and we came here and we feel great, and that, to me, it's like, okay, because it's so important, especially these day and age, because beer is a beer. Beer is a beer. The making the beer that tastes really great and winning awards, that's all very personal. And so is the inclusivity part. It's very personal, but it's also community centric, because I want folks to feel comfortable, and it means a lot to hear all your kind words, and again, it's more motivation to keep it up, because it's just, I agree. It's what we need to do, and focus on positivity, and just keep trying to create spaces that we feel welcome, that everybody feels welcome, and yeah.
You're doing it, kid.
Trying.
Hey, listen, have a great time. Go ahead, Jen.
I want to tell you one thing. I just recently, while we were on our break, I redid my little studio room so the backdrop for the podcast, this whole wall is chalkboard paint.
Oh, that's awesome.
Your name is the first one to go up here for unveiling of the wall.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Number one. Way to go.
I'll send you a snapshot.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you again so much for having me. I so appreciate it. It's awesome to talk to you all.
It's our pleasure. We will send you the links as soon as they're out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, Lauren, take care.
All right, have a good night. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Why do you always run?
Like, never stop chasing your dreams.
We drank way too much whiskey.
Yeah, see?
My addiction is you. Don't ask me why I'm here tonight. I had to take this midnight drive to find you. And as I come in through the door, I see her dancing on the floor beside you. Why do you always run back to the lover you once knew? You're to her touch, that's true. And I confess, my addiction